I'm Loretta.
Sitting in my cozy suburban apartment, sipping tea and looking out at the green trees, it's hard to believe how far I've come from the chaos of my past marriage. Just the other day, I was jolted back to those dark times when I saw him at my door. It was a Saturday morning, and I was curled up in my blanket, enjoying the peace. The doorbell rang, and when I checked the front door camera, my heart skipped a beat. There stood Ethan, looking like a wreck. His clothes were wrinkled, and his hair was a mess, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Loretta, open the door." "It's me, Ethan." His voice came through the intercom, a mix of pleading and desperation. I took a deep breath and replied calmly through the speaker, "Sorry, you've got the wrong person. I don't know who you are." He didn't give up. "Stop joking, Loretta. I need to talk to you, please." I maintained my cold tone. "You've got the wrong address. I'm not Loretta, and I don't know you." He seemed confused but pressed on. "Don't do this. I've lost everything. Stella, she deceived me. I have nowhere else to go." I watched him through the screen, seeing the broken man he'd become. Everything he once boasted about was in ruins. I knew Stella had left him after taking most of his savings. After a while, realizing I wouldn't open the door, he sat on the porch steps, mumbling to himself. I didn't care. I just wanted him gone. 15 minutes later, he stood up, defeated. He looked into the camera one last time, as if hoping I'd change my mind. Of course, I stayed silent. Just as I let out a sigh of relief, my phone rang. It was Mrs. Thompson, Ethan's mother. "Loretta, I heard Ethan came to see you. Is he okay?" she asked, her voice full of concern. "Yes, he just left, but don't worry." "I didn't open the door," I replied. "You did the right thing. I told him the house now belongs to you." "I transferred ownership as soon as I learned about his affair with Stella," she said, her voice a mix of regret and helplessness. I was stunned. I never expected such a gesture. "Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll take good care of this house," I said, filled with gratitude. As I sat there reflecting on this turn of events, my mind wandered back to how it all began. 3 years ago, I met Ethan at a party hosted by a mutual friend. I went out of politeness, not wanting to decline the invitation. Ethan was there only because he promised his friends. Neither of us felt at home in that noisy place, and maybe that shared sense of disconnection drew us together. At that time, Ethan was a quiet and thoughtful man. Our conversations started with simple topics like hobbies and childhood memories and gradually evolved into deeper discussions about the future. I thought I'd found my soulmate, someone with whom I could build a home. We got married just weeks after meeting. Everything happened so fast, but I was in a blissful dream, thinking we'd create a beautiful life together. However, about a month after we moved in together, Ethan started to change. He was no longer the gentleman I'd fallen in love with. Long evenings waiting for him to come home became a monotonous routine. One evening, out of the blue, he said, "Loretta, I want you to quit your job." His firm voice made me freeze.
What?
"Why?" I asked, searching his eyes for a reasonable answer. "When you work, I feel like I have no role in this family. At my company, all my colleagues' wives stay home. I don't want to be the odd one out," he replied, his eyes showing a hint of insecurity. I was shocked. Since when did he become so concerned about what others thought? We'd once agreed that I'd keep working and we'd work towards our shared goals together. But now, he wanted me to give up everything for meaningless societal expectations. I asked for time to think, but time didn't help. Ethan kept pressuring me, openly showing his disappointment every time I hesitated. Every morning, as I got ready for work, he'd sit on the sofa, his cold gaze following my every move. Sometimes he'd say I didn't love our family enough and that I was selfish for focusing on my career. I felt cornered. My job was more than just a source of income. It was where I found myself, worth, independence, and freedom. But to Ethan, it seemed like a threat. I turned to my manager, Lily, for advice. She'd been through an unhappy marriage, and her story made me realize I wasn't alone. You don't have to give up what you love just to please someone else. If you don't stand your ground now, things will get worse, she said, her eyes full of determination. Her words gave me hope. I thought about a temporary solution, like working part-time or remotely. But deep down, I knew the problem wasn't my job, it was Ethan's change. One morning, in our small kitchen, I decided to tell him I'd reduce my work hours. I've thought about it. I'll work part-time so I can spend more time at home like you want, I said. He looked at me with a faint relief, though still cautious. Really? You'll do that? Yes, I nodded, forcing a smile. I talked to Lily at work. She agreed to let me work 4 days a week from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That way, I can still help with dinner and take care of the house. He put down his spoon and his expression softened. I really appreciate this, Loretta. I knew you'd understand me. Inside, I felt a mix of relief and unease. I temporarily calmed him down, but I worried about what was to come. I secretly kept my full-time job, only officially reducing my hours and taking on remote projects. Lily understood my situation and helped me keep it a secret. For the first few weeks, things went smoothly. Ethan seemed happy to see me at home more often. But then he started making more demands. He'd frequently invite colleagues and friends over on weekends, expecting me to prepare meals and host them perfectly. Just make some simple dishes, he'd say, but his eyes were full of high expectations when the guests arrived. Weekends that were supposed to be for rest turned into a nightmare. I felt like a stranger in my own home as he criticized me in front of guests when something didn't meet his standards. Things took a turn for the worse when I noticed strange signs. Ethan's clothes sometimes had a sweet perfume smell that wasn't mine. When I asked, he'd just laugh it off, saying it was from a female colleague. There were also late night calls and messages. One night, when he fell asleep on the couch, his phone rang. The caller ID was Stella. When I reached to silence it, a message popped up. I miss you. When are you coming over? My worst fears were confirmed. I started to keep a closer eye on his actions. He'd often go out in the evenings, using work or meeting friends as an excuse. Once, when he said he was having a meeting with his boss, I called his office and found out he'd taken the day off. I collected evidence of his late arrivals, the suspicious messages, and even took pictures of lipstick marks on his shirt collar. Finally, the truth couldn't be hidden. One evening, he came home and threw his jacket on the chair. You need to leave. I'll change the locks tomorrow, he said coldly. I was in shock. What did you just say? I asked. You heard me. We're done. Pack your things. I don't want to see you here when I get back, he replied. I tried to stay calm, and I knew it was over. Fine, I'll go, but you'll regret this, I said firmly. He just shrugged and walked away. I started packing my things not out of fear, but because I was ready for a new beginning. I prepared the divorce papers in advance, with all the financial documents and evidence of his affair with Stella. The next morning, I sent them through my lawyer and left the house without a word. After moving into my small suburban apartment, I decided to return to full-time work. Lily and my colleagues welcomed me back warmly. Living independently gave me a new sense of freedom. I no longer worried about what others thought or fulfilled the wife role Ethan had forced on me. I took time for myself, attended yoga classes, and met new friends. Meanwhile, I heard more about Ethan's downfall. His workplace found the intimate photos of him and Stella on social media. Stella had no hesitation in sharing their luxurious vacations and fancy dinners, claiming her boyfriend paid for it all. The company, which had strict ethical policies, asked Ethan to resign. Stella left him when he ran out of money, and he was evicted from his rented apartment. He became a lost soul in the city. With the help of my lawyer and the evidence I'd collected, I got a settlement of up to $410,000. Through additional legal procedures, I also got another $22,000 from the hidden assets. I used this money to stabilize my life and invest in myself, enrolling in skill development courses. Mrs. Thompson and I stayed in touch. She often expressed regret about Ethan's actions. We'd meet on weekends at a small cafe near my home. She'd bring homemade baked goods and share stories about her garden. You've become so much stronger, Loretta. I'm truly proud of you, she said one morning. I just did what I had to do, Mom. Life's too short to endure the unworthy, I replied, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. Now, Ethan's stories have faded away. I don't know where he is, and I don't care. What matters most is that I've found myself, learned to love myself, and am ready to embrace a brighter future.